it's Arsenal. Wayne Emirates TV.
What's up guys, Wayne from Wayne Emirates TV. Today we got a game against Newcastle at the Emirates. It seems like we always play at the Emirates, like we have less away games than other teams. It's really weird. But we've already beat Newcastle recently. We beat them last week in the FA Cup, but we didn't actually manage to break them down within the 90 minutes. So we needed extra time to get the victory in that game with Smith Rowe and Aubameyang coming up with the goals. But the point is, we did not break Newcastle down within 90 minutes. Disappointing game in the Premier League last time against Crystal Palace, where it was 0-0. I predicted 2-0, but we couldn't break Palace down, which when you look at the fact that Crystal Palace got smashed by Manchester City yesterday 4-0, just shows you how far Arsenal are away as an attacking force. Mikel Arteta was saying something about we created a lot of chances against a low block. Talking about in reference to the game against Crystal Palace, I didn't see us create any chances against the low block, so I'm not sure what that's about. We made Palace look like they had a strong defence, which they did have a good defence in that game. I'm not saying they weren't organised, but when you compare a 4-0 win for Manchester City, that's what we should be aiming for. We should have done better than that. So that leaves me less confident about getting a win against Newcastle tonight, but I am going to go ahead and predict a win anyway. I think 1-0. We can beat Newcastle, we know that. Newcastle will gain confidence from the fact that they managed to shut us out over 90 minutes in the FA Cup game. And Andy Carroll is obviously, if he's fit, he's going to play. He had a good game against us, so there's a few things we need to watch out for. It's probably not going to be as easy as it looks on paper, the way that Newcastle are in problems of their own and not really winning games at the moment. I don't think it's going to be that straightforward. As Arsenal fans, we know that we can be very pedestrian in games and really struggle with games that we should be doing better in. It gets to the 70th, 80th minute and we still haven't scored, then we get nervous. Other teams get more and more confident the longer it takes us to score a goal. I'm really happy with Thomas Partey being back for this one. Did you see him when he came on for the last 20 minutes against Crystal Palace? He was looking beast, bro. He was winning duels in midfield and he looks like that dominant midfielder, defensive midfielder that we've been looking for a long time at Arsenal, over a decade. We've been looking for a player who can play the DM position properly and is just a natural athlete. Hopefully Kieran Tierney had some muscular soreness for the Crystal Palace game. He wasn't available, but I'm hoping to see Kieran Tierney obviously back tonight. He's been one of our outstanding players. Obviously Emil Smith Rowe has put in some good performances for us as well recently, for that creative spark, maybe a player that can get in between the lines, collect the ball from the midfield and distribute to the strikers. I feel like our attack is looking more fluid with Smith Rowe in there. Lacazette played, he wasn't involved in the game against Crystal Palace the other night, but I think we should start with Lacazette. We should start with Aubameyang, obviously. Hopefully Uber can get back to his scoring ways. And I think it's going to be a controversial one, but I still think we should start with Pepe. Pepe, last 20 minutes of the other day when he came on, no intensity, just backwards passes, and anything he tried wasn't really coming off. So I think we need to give Pepe a couple of starts rather than just bring him on in the last 20 minutes. Give farewell to Mesut Ozil. Mesut Ozil is finally left the club. He's going back to Turkey. He's been signed by Fenerbahce, so that brings that saga to a conclusion. Mesut Ozil, for me, he's a club legend. Others will disagree, but he hasn't, performance-wise, done anything near what players like Henry and Dennis Bergkamp and Vieira and Perez. I'm not saying he's a legend in terms of performances, but in terms of caliber of player, the caliber of player that Mesut Ozil was in world football when we signed him, and just some of the unbelievable flashes of genius that we've seen since he's been at the club. And he did show loyalty to the club, and he was a good servant to the club. It's just at the end it didn't really work out for him. I'm not really sure why. I would say that the last two managers after Wenger left, first Unai Emery and then Arteta, obviously he wasn't really part of their plans. Mesut Ozil is what some people would say is a luxury player in terms of you don't get the tracking back and the defensive work. But look, the guy, he makes so many offensive runs. I think it's a bit of an unfair criticism sometimes. Very lazy as a pundit just to get clips of Mesut Ozil not tracking back and highlighting, saying that's the problem. But really the problem was that we never had a DM, a defensive midfielder, who was world class enough or at a good enough standard to counterbalance the fact that Mesut Ozil wasn't going to track back as much and take the responsibility off. When you've got someone who's got the ability to hit assist statistics that Mesut Ozil can reach, why are you going to bog him down with tackles and tracking back? I feel like Arsenal should have just brought a proper defensive midfielder. That means that Ozil could have concentrated on what he's good at, and we know that he's one of the best in the world, and it would have helped. What didn't help was the size of the contract. When you give a player who's approaching the last years of his career such a long contract and on high wages, it just unsettles the dressing room. It just brings like a bit of a negative aspect to the team morale. Look at a player like Gareth Bale, for example. When you give a player such a long contract, they can hold the club to ransom, so to speak. And I just don't think it's worth it. I think football clubs need to be smarter about the type of contracts they give to players. If a player is young, and he's obviously one of the top talents in the world, and a player is young, fair enough, give him a long-term contract on big money. When a player's he's on the decline, he's not at the peak of his powers, don't give him a long-term contract, because think about it from the perspective of players. If you're performing twice as good as somebody else, or you're putting in better performances and your form is better than somebody is on triple or double your wages, we're all humans at the end of the day. That's going to have a negative effect. So I think that's part of it as well. Clubs need to get smarter about the type of contracts that they're giving players when they reach the latter stages of their career. Farewell to Mesut Ozil. He's been an amazing player. The way he plays is just an inspiration for so many people. He's got a unique style. He's one of a kind as a player in terms of his vision and what he sees, and just the artistry and the coolness of what he does stuff. It's just brilliant to watch. There's not another player like Mesut Ozil, but it's time for everyone to move on. Guys, I'll see you after the game.